Boom! What's up, everyone? Welcome to Simulation. Super exciting episode today talking about blockchain for social justice. Who better to have on the show than Daisy Ozim talking to us?
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is a really important subject, and you are the perfect person. Director of Blockchain for Social Justice, been around a year now, events, curriculum. We're helping the underserved, underrepresented communities and individuals become developers in the blockchain space, entrepreneurs in the blockchain space, crypto investors. This is all extremely important work. So yeah, exactly. Tell us why you got into the space.
Yeah, so I actually learned about Bitcoin in 2014 through my work studying and actually working in social impact investment, alternative economies, and I was like, this is really powerful. This is going to really change the way things work. I didn't know that it was going to turn into all of this that we see today with thousands of coins and the craziness with the SEC. And then in 2016, I got reintroduced to the blockchain technology in a whole different way, and started really looking at in terms of how can we really bring this into our communities. So in 2017, I actually started hosting economic health fairs where we would bring folks from marginalized communities in to talk about credit and things like that, but we would also talk about blockchain and crypto as a vehicle to end generational poverty.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's oh my gosh, this is the applications that we desperately need the technology for as soon as possible.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start unpacking what you're talking about. So, we're looking at this industry a couple years ago, and we're like, okay, what is it going to evolve into? And one of the most pressing spaces for it to evolve is to help the underserved communities become crypto investors. This is this thing, you get to bypass an institutional investor. You get to bypass that. And that's huge in itself. You can invest into coins, into companies, for initial coin offerings, all this cool stuff. So is that kind of a big part of the push, is for people to realize that they can become blockchain developers and be like way ahead of the curve?
I would say the goal is fourfold. One is, of course, to help underserved communities become blockchain developers, because blockchain developers make at least 2 to 3 times more than regular developers because they're in such high demand. And that's going to be the next wave, right? And we already know that there's an issue in terms of STEM education access in marginalized communities. Second is to help these communities invest in blockchain and crypto, not to flush other people's pockets, but how can we use this as a vehicle to end generational poverty and to fund necessary infrastructure in our communities, and infrastructure that is not bureaucratic, corrupt, and basically corporate controlled.
Yep.
Yeah, good luck to you there. Ready, go.
Right. Another objective is being able to help entrepreneurs who are already doing social impact work in these underserved communities actually learn about blockchain and actually how they can develop their own blockchain and implement it into what they're already doing to streamline their work and accelerate their impact. And then also, I guess the last part is being able to reposition blockchain technology as something that Satoshi Nakamoto created in order to sidestep some of the corruption and trauma and harm that we have seen created by these mainstream institutions.
Yeah.
And what's been going on in the industry is we have forgotten what this technology was created for, and overnight it turned into ICOs and Spank Chain and Crypto Kitties. Okay, that's cute. And at the same time, there are people who are dying and suffering, and this technology can really help them.
We didn't forget. We didn't forget. There's people that remembered what it's all about.
Maybe, maybe not, but that's a whole other conversation for another day.
Damn. Okay, those were really important mission points. I'm so happy that you're addressing all of those. So let's pick these for now, and let's see where we go with them. So ending generational poverty. Okay, let's start there. Tell us about generational poverty and how this is helping end it.
Well, basically what generational poverty is when an individual basically stays poor from one generation to another. They don't really have an opportunity to pull themselves out of their class or socioeconomic status because of outside systemic factors that were deliberately generated in order to keep some folks disadvantaged and other folks at an advantage, right?
And tell us about some of the factors that keep people advantaged and disadvantaged.
Of course.
Yes.
So some of those factors are deliberate lack of investment in marginalized communities, deliberate policies that had a racial or gender inequity undertone, such as the redlining that created the suburbs, right? But locked Black and brown people out of the suburbs where there was better education systems, better access to jobs, better access to food, etc.
Yeah.
There is the system of mass incarceration that deliberately sets up infrastructure for people to basically enter that system from a very young age. There's the educational inequality, there's income inequality, there's hiring bias. I mean, what?
It's endless.
It's endless.
Wow. That feeling, though, you know, I have to let it sit with me for a moment. It's fucking real, and it's raw, and it's there, and it's pervasive, and it's been holding people back from their full potential.
Yeah, it hasn't held you back though, has it now there, Mr. Sakian?
Yeah, it's really important. And, you know, talking about, you know, people as individuals and people as communities, you know, there is, of course, as an individual, there's different like sovereignties to that process versus as a community. But these, what you described, make it seem so driven towards community, like that it is a whole communal problem, that it's the attention that's paid into actually solving that problem is very, it's not there, it's lacking, and that's okay. So you listed so many important things there. Okay, now how does applying, like I totally see like coming in to underserved communities and teaching about how you can basically leapfrog with becoming a blockchain developer. That is huge. That's not even like getting out of of generational poverty. That's like leapfrogging way out of, and that's hell yeah. That's a huge one. That's a big one. And then also identifying crypto investments for the families to also find, and I'm following the huge importance of that. And then you were talking about infrastructure projects as well. Like keep unpacking, because I think we don't talk about this enough on the show. So if you can give us more of an essence of the generational poverty, of the infrastructure that's lacking, and then how blockchain is coming in, and like projects like yours coming in and helping.
Well, I think the thing about all of this is we are basically being forced to look at it dead in its face because of the administration that we are under. And here in the Bay Area where we are, you see it once you step out of this door, the mass amounts of homelessness, elders, families, children sleeping on the streets. And that is not by accident or coincidence, right? And the fact that the more wealth that comes into San Francisco, the more homeless people we see on the streets, there's a reason why that happens, right? So in terms of generational wealth, poverty, I kind of explain what that is. Now, how can blockchain help this issue? Blockchain is not the end all be all. No, it is not. However, it can actually help us level the playing field because, like I said, there are systems deliberately set up to create this generational poverty, to have people at a disadvantage, because folks don't know that it's also a multi-billion-dollar market for other people to be poor, because you can make money on them if you own a prison. You can make money off of them if you own a bank. You can make money off of them if you own a ticketing, you work for the city and you ticket people. You can make millions of dollars off of poor people, right? So it is a profitable business. And what we see blockchain being able to do is eliminate some of those systems that are creating this generational poverty in our communities, and looking at some of these underserved communities as guinea pigs and test subjects for their different tools of oppression, and also for their revenue generating streams. So when we're talking about blockchain and how it can help these communities, it can help with being able to create localized infrastructure, right? Being able to help us really capitalize on our existing assets that we do have. Because sometimes we look at marginalized communities and be like, everything's wrong. No, there's some things that are going right. How can blockchain technology help us amplify that, right? And also too, being able to help us bring in the resources that we need in order to fund our own infrastructure projects, because then what ends up happening is what we call the nonprofit industrial complex, right? That is there in place of the social service system and the public sector. So when the private sector comes in and they do their due diligence, which is the destruction and obstruction, the public sector, which is the welfare offices, all of that, they try to come in and support, they fail, right? And then who ends up having to come in next is the nonprofit industry. And we all know that they are kind of ran simultaneously by the same players in many ways, right? So philanthropy then creates more issues in our community because we're like, hey, we want to solve this issue. Okay, in order for you to solve it, we need to see you doing it this, and this way. Unfortunately, the way that mainstream philanthropy wants us to do it is not the way that it should be done. And it ends up causing more harm and trauma in the community because we're not able to address the root cause. We're really just having like Band-Aid over it, right? So instead of me having like a food bank, okay, why don't you teach me how to create my own grocery store? Why don't you teach me how to actually create my own farm, community garden, instead of me going to the food bank to get food that's hecka old and in a can that's unhealthy anyways, right? That's just like an example. And blockchain technology can help us do these things. That's why I started the Blockchain for Social Justice, because it's critical that we create technology to specifically address some of these issues of marginalization.
Okay, so we take, we have some good images as well to, to show. Yeah, good point. Okay, let's pull up some of the images from the site, because you also have a pretty good way of explaining this through some of the graphics that you have.
Well, let's talk about her organization here, Before SJ. No, is that?
Yeah, we have been talking about Before SJ. We want to pull up the. Will you pull up the graphics that you had?
There was a couple.
Yeah. Pull up one of the first ones from the site. Yeah.
The guiding principles: accessibility, equity, innovation.
And this is actually really important, because having principles, having values that you build your whole ideology on top of is crucial. So here we have accessibility, equity, and innovation. So we've been talking about this, and the importance of it is taking these new technologies out to especially underserved communities and creating more of a system of equity, and then also all the brilliant innovation that has yet to be unpacked from their minds and into the world. You tell us anything else about the principles that you think that we should?
Well, let's unpack the principles.
Let's do it.
Rapid fire. So when we're talking about accessibility, that is making sure that folks actually just have an understanding that this technology exists and what it's currently doing and how it's currently, impacting our world. That's the accessibility piece, and also creating these events and the different curriculum that we have to basically streamline that accessibility and decentralize, right? Play on words, decentralize this information.
Yeah.
The equity piece is the blockchain space is really white male dominated dominant. Well, let's look at the global industry. It's heavily dominated, like white male dominated, and heavily dominated by Asian folks, which there's not an issue with that. However, we know that the world is more than just those two groups of folks, right? We know also too that when we're talking about equity, it's not about like us being able to have the same thing. It's about the simple fact that, hey, you were already at an advantage, I'm at a disadvantage. How can we create a system where we actually put more love and care and support into those at a disadvantage so they can be at the same level at those who came with that advantage, right? That's what equity really means. And that's what we're trying to create with this technology, right? And then the innovation piece is we know that diversity creates innovation. So by creating diversity within the blockchain industry, we're actually able to have more creative projects, more use cases that are really viable, tokens that are actually sustainable and not shitcoins, right? And conferences that are like celebrating diversity and all kinds of different people there, not where it's just like a few different type of people and you get all kinds of like whatever that you get, right? It's just the same old stale stuff, same speakers, same individuals, conference after conference. We have the chance to make this different because blockchain is technology. right? But the technology sector has been the way that it has been, just very professional, corporate, blue collar or whatnot. With blockchain technology, we have the opportunity to create a new type of tech industry and really center diversity.
Yeah.
Are you going to Tech Inclusion next month, sponsored by Google? Have you heard of that event?
Yeah, I'm actually going to be speaking there about blockchain for social justice.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm trying to get on that gig, actually. Directing part of that.
Awesome.
They actually asked me the other day. I did that last year and was very happy to be part of that. So.
I'm glad you're speaking there. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
That's good.
When is that again? So in case anybody...
Tech Inclusion, when is it?
Yeah, the Google
October, I forget, 17th, 18th, 15th, 16th. We'll get it and I'll remember. I'll find it right here.
Do you know when it is?
Yeah, it's October 15th to the 17th.
Okay.
15th through 17th, cool.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
And so, okay, so yeah, this point, okay, you make it so clear. It's like, how do we properly figure out how to give resources and tools to those that are underserved and help actualize their full potential into the world? So that's kind of this idea of equity that I think so many people align with and agree with. It's just, it can be like masked by so many other things that harm people's understanding about it. So I think when it's like explained that way, it makes more sense. And I think that's like one of the ultimate tests of humanity, is like trying to figure out how to do that. Have deep empathy, figure out how to funnel resources and tools down, and then help people become their fullest. And also, it's also like people that have some sort of already like advantage monetarily, etc., that there are the megalomaniacs that are trying to like transcend and get away from everyone that's poor. And then there's also other people that do that exact process of figuring out how to funnel resources, and like those are the real ones,
Yeah, exactly.
The real ones, yeah.
I don't know why that's so hard for people to understand, but at the same time, I also have to recognize that not a lot of people have the blessing to be able to have this understanding, because it is a sort of a spiritual practice to stay in this type of thinking, And our culture, we have a culture that's really rooted in materialism, individualism, and just pure unadulterated nonsense, and selfishness. So.
It is a lot about the culture of like the individual, and rather than the community, and rather than how do you help take care of the brothers and sisters around you, and they take care of you as well. It's a huge consciousness transition that's happening, and I'm really excited to just be right in like the middle of it in so many ways. Yeah, it's like right there in the middle of it, especially with the Gen Z kids that are coming into life that are, that definitely think this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be throwing all of the old systems on their heads, especially with technology like blockchain that enables them to do so. They can't believe all of the generational issues that have been going on for so long, and how they're finally being fixed through technology.
Yeah, well, I mean, technology can be also, as you know, technology is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It's all how we use it, and we need to be proactive about showing that Generation Z what a new society will look like, because they can't lead us there if the folks who are before them, which is our generation, don't get it together, right? And right now, our generation is experiencing a lot. It's just basically compound interest of generations of living in a messed up society, right? But I think we are really like waking up. There's like this huge consciousness transformation, and we're looking at like how do we actually be more community oriented, which is what blockchain is too. It's like instead of us going to like one central figure to be able to do the things that we need to do to live, it is decentralized and it's distributed, meaning like we all have the same amount of power. We all have the same ability to get onto the same platform as anyone else and do the things that we need to do. So I see blockchain technology not as just a way to technically transform society, but also in that adaptive way too. But we have to be open to that. So another thing is I'm concerned about some of the individuals who are considered leaders in this blockchain space, because like we said, this technology is going to change everything in our society. It's going to hit every single sector. And it's not just about the technology, it's about the individuals who are building it, which is like one of our values being innovation, right? And when you have individuals who haven't really done that work in terms of like developing core values, learning how to respect themselves and others, the values of cooperation and collaboration, we're just gonna get the same things over and over again. So it doesn't matter. We can throw a blockchain at whatever issue, but it's the mind behind it.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So
This is a principle of moving. The principle is figuring out the principles.
Right.
It's figuring out the values of the children at the youngest ages possible, and ensuring that we're moving forward in a direction that is caring. Ron, pull up the next.
It was the addresses to support the causes over there. And,
Ah.
I do have this, page. They talk about
So,
social justice. Can we focus rather than on social injustice, but what is social injustice?
so there's something that I think is an important topic to ask about. Oh, cool. Yeah, this is good. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah, those move. Yeah, this is an insane image. I actually have this image on my slides as well, where I showed the differences in wealth inequality. That one is an intense one. Just seeing the dichotomy, you can also see that in Tijuana and San Diego. Interesting. So then this is equity.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
Equal distribution of resources and opportunities within a system is rooted in inequality. Social justice-minded individuals from various sectors come together to support the development of blockchain projects that serve the most vulnerable.
We'll read it. Read it
Every
out loud
blockchain
for our-
project should be designed to uplift marginalized communities and eliminate the wealth gap, poverty, intergenerational trauma, and promote true democracy with unfair institutions. Cryptocurrency is a tool of economic sovereignty. In order to make use of it as such, efforts must be made to reclaim its purpose. Yep. So let's take this, because I think this is an important point, and there's going to be some viewership that is going to be interested in hearing kind of like how this works.
There's also going to be a lot of people, I think, within our community that aren't interested in everything that Daisy is talking about. There's a resistance to that.
Yeah, we started unpacking that
But
a little
unpack,
bit.
more, because Daisy had also mentioned that she's concerned with where some people are taking the concept of blockchain too. So I want to talk about.
She brought up something really important, which was just that if the technology that's being made is being made with values of inequality, then it doesn't fucking matter what technology you make and what you throw at it. It's got to be made with values that are transcendent of inequality. And so here's the question, and I think people will appreciate this question being addressed by you. It's like the proper way of addressing the generational poverty. What is the proper way of addressing the generational poverty?
Community initiatives.
that's so crazy. There's not one right answer. There's not one right way. There needs to be a multitude of initiatives to tackle the root cause of generational inequality and generational poverty. So all those different phenomena that I talked about earlier, it needs to happen from there. So I would guess it needs to start from the level of the individual. We need to really, really do the work in terms of understanding that, first of all, we're all interconnected. So if I'm suffering, that individual is suffering. So eventually I'm gonna probably be in their position, so I should probably care and try to help, one. Two is on the interpersonal level, how we're treating each other and how we view each other. If you come into my office looking for a job and I have all these different social biases and themes running within my consciousness that are poisoning my mind, I am gonna be less likely to wanna give you that opportunity because of whatever's happening in here. Second is on the community level. How do we set up infrastructure and community to help us handle these processes on the individual and interpersonal level, to help us learn how to work together, to develop our own economic systems, right? So that we can become self-sovereign and independent from the mainstream institutions. And then on the institutional level, how do we hold institutions and how can we help them hold themselves accountable for the harm that they've caused, for some of the things that we've seen happen, for some of the initiatives that we've seen them support, for the ways in which they've mismanaged funds, right? And on the policy level, how are we crafting policy and regulation and compliance, right, that can allow for what I discussed on the individual, interpersonal, community, and institutional level? That's how it needs to flow. Not from the top down, but from the bottom up. And it can be vice versa too, depending on what issue you're dealing with, right? So when we're talking about, like, for instance, this issue of income inequality, we can definitely make sure that we pass policies and make sure people get paid the same. And on the individual level, we can make sure folks get proper, like, career training, right?
Yeah, I see how that works.
Right.
Yeah. From your, I like how you initially, brought up all those different solutions, because that is how it is. It's a multifaceted issue that can be addressed in many of the different ways, including top down, bottom up. Now, okay, here's another question that the following would probably be interested in hearing. How does one in a position of being underserved or underrepresented, how do they maximize their potential through their individual abilities?
Wow, this is a good question, and this is actually, like, the issue too, because generational poverty comes with generational trauma, and generational trauma comes with low self-esteem, emotional dysregulation, lack of ability to see into the future, helplessness and hopelessness, coping mechanisms that are dysfunctional, the whole nine, right? So in order for us in order for an individual experiencing generational poverty to want to be able to get out of it and help themselves, first we have to actually help them understand what happened to them and see that it's actually not your individual fault or not the fault of your family or community. This is something systemic, and this is something that has been going on, right? That's a form of empowerment, because then it opens up their eyes, like, oh wow, okay, I see now, this is just like a machine that's doing this. This is not my individual issue, it's not my own family's individual issue, or my race or my gender's individual issue, right? And then you have to basically be able to motivate that individual. You have to expose them to new opportunities, new people, new spaces, help them develop new neural pathways, new ways of thinking, being, and doing, or else you can throw all kinds of opportunities at them and nothing's gonna stick. Yeah. And I have firsthand experience with this because I do work with, like, homeless youth, disconnected families, disconnected youth, and there's a lot of self-defeat because of the generational trauma, and they've seen nothing but their family members dying, going to jail, being on drugs, homeless, whatever. So they start to have something where it's a manifest destiny. They're like, that's gonna be my path, so why do any of this anyways, right? And then they start to basically facilitate their own destruction and their own demise. So that's why when folks are like, well, they have all these nonprofits, they have welfare, how come they just can't make themselves better? It's because you're not even looking at, we're talking about people who've been in this same situation, their family's been in this same cycle for hundreds of years, right?
The machine.
Machine. It's a system that is designed to keep that going, right? You just can't come to one day and be like, oh, you can do A, B, C, and D. They're gonna be like, you're trying to scam me, because there's also that level of distrust too, Like, oh, you're trying to scam me, I don't believe you, what do you want to get out of me? That's why relationship building and community building is so important, right?
Yeah.
In order to help those individuals see what they can be. Mentorship is important.
Yeah.
Them being able to see people who look just like them in these positions. Like, even me, the things that I'm doing, I don't consider myself like a Beyonce of blockchain or like some famous person, but I know that there are people now who are looking up to me, in order to make things happen.
Yeah.
Looking up to me as like a mentor, looking up to me as a role model. So of course, I conduct myself a certain way. And at the same time too, I have those people in my world, who help me see the best of myself, So I think that's it. And that's why with Blockchain for Social Justice, when we're talking about how we do the economic health fairs, we have to talk about social justice. We have to talk about inequities too, so people understand that there's a system put in place for you to not get opportunities. It's not you not doing enough. It's not you being lazy. There's heck of hurdles and barriers set up for you to be able to not get.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
That was exactly the answer that I think needed to be addressed.
Yeah.
That was really well said, Daisy. That was really, really well said.
You're saying lots of great things, Daisy, and I'm glad that people have someone like you
to look up to.
Thank you.
And I think you're saying it in a way that just enables people of all walks to understand. Because when you are given a good roll of the dice, a better roll of the dice than someone else's, it can be tough to empathize and respect the one that has a less fortunate roll of the dice. And so I think that the way that I asked the question and then the way you answered it was a really good way to inspire people to care about the lower rolls of the dice. That's why I asked it, because there's so many people that watch this that need that answer to care more about it, to make it more relatable to them, to make it more visceral for their emotional state, to care more. Okay, so this was really important what you said. This was so good. When you were talking about the machine and all of the systemic issues that young kids face when they're born, we have this dichotomy here on Market and 6th Street where it's 100K plus a year engineers and they're walking next to homeless people. And then, we've had a couple conversations with some of the homeless people on the streets, and they don't even like being called homeless. They just say, I'm choosing not to have a permanent residence. That's what they say. And then furthermore is they're like, yo, both of my mom and dad were meth heads. One of them was like, my dad went to jail when I was a tiny kid. And then he just got out, the guy just got out of jail. So anyway, these are literal stories. Thank you for the timer, Ron. I feel like we're gonna go a little bit over, but these are sort of the stories of the variables of the machine that we don't actually get to see and feel and become part of us. You just kind of like move it off the side and brush it off.
It has nothing to do with me. I don't want to touch that. Oh, these dirty people, these poor people, why are they acting like that? They're so uncivilized, right? Because when you dehumanize other people, you dehumanize yourself, right? So it's easy for you to look at these people, look at these certain communities and have all these judgments and disrespect and assumptions, right? But it's harder to get out of your fancy car, get out of your office, right? Go talk to those individuals, go spend a day in their community. It's harder to go actually read their history and study this system of inequality and of oppression, because it doesn't matter to you. Because at the end of the day, you're not impacted, right? So all these crypto fools, they're making a bunch of their money, and you don't even realize that basically you're at the head of the next financial revolution, right? This is the second largest transfer of wealth in history. The first one was a slave trade. And you're at the forefront of this, and instead you'd be like, I see this presidency, I see all these things happening, I see Silicon Valley, I see the income, the homelessness and inequality. Let me use the extra funds that I have now, because I'm printing money out of thin air, to help some of these social issues. Instead, it's let me go buy a Ferrari or hire 100 strippers for my party. So it's a lot of, like I said, Alan, and you are someone who I have a lot of respect for, because you do your work, right? Because it's not easy to recognize how we've played into these different systems of oppression and these certain mind states. And it's not easy to address your own privilege, even when you have been harmed, right? Even when you come from a background in a family that has not experienced the best of the best, It's not easy to do that, but we still do it anyways, because we know on the other side is we get to be lighthearted. We get to have empathy for other people. We get to connect with people on a deeper level. We get to create very rare experiences with people that we probably would have not had we had our blinders on. Totally. And we're just worried about being elitist and in our bubbles and whatnot, So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the space. And that's why every single blockchain conference needs to have a panel about social impact and centering it. Yeah,
that's good. I like that one.
Right.
Yeah, that's because I've been to so many as well, and that would be amazing if there was a social impact oriented panel, or even just as a theme in general. That's what you do. That's why you do it.
Yeah.
To share that message more. So, oh man, there's so many ways to go with this, and I want to talk more about the actual events and the curriculum. but it's just like I'm still being pulled for you to just keep dropping these really relatable ways of understanding. So let me try and pull a bit more and see what we can get from it. Within the machine that is systematically causing a lot of the issues that we see in lower socioeconomic, again, rolls of the dice, just based on complete luck, where you were born and what zip code to what, whether your parents were in jail or addicted to meth, or whether they had 100K a year jobs, etc. That then it's about really getting that all of those variables exist, and like you said, not having a narrow elitist mindset about it, but rather being like, hey, I want to objectively see how things are. And you gave a really good example. It's, spend one day out of the office and literally going down the streets and just doing your best to just stop and just have a conversation or two or three about what's up in your life, like who are you, like tell me about you, because then you'll actually learn about, and you'd be surprised at how many people that we've talked to on the streets, artists, philosophers, musicians, creators of all different sorts. This is just like you and me, in many ways, just like you and me. And so
they are you and me, But I would like to add to, Alan, I think another thing too that we don't actually explore a lot of the times is folks are desensitized, I'm saying like completely desensitized. They're coming from generations of being wealthy, not having to care, having full access, full privilege, being able to do the things that they want and move freely through society. We're talking about desensitization with the media. They've been watching certain themes and stereotypes be embedded into their mind year after year, show after show, movie after movie. We're desensitized. I go in the morning and there's like a 20-foot line outside of Starbucks, right? We're completely desensitized. This society promotes the desensitization. Go and get entertained, right? Go and numb yourself. Don't worry about other people. You live in a bubble. So for a lot of folks, when we have these type of conversations, they can't even kick it like this. They can't relate because they are desensitized on a deeper level than we may actually really realize, right? Yeah. So it's like me trying to pour a gallon into a cup like this. It's gonna overflow. They're gonna start.
That's good. That's a good analogy.
They're gonna start tapping out. They're gonna start getting angry. They're gonna start going into cognitive dissonance, right? Where they start arguing and throwing out all kinds of nonsense and rubbish, trying to contradict what you're saying, even though they're contradicting themselves. You're gonna see all kinds of very strange, irate, agitated, and childish behavior, because you have to also understand that empathy is something of the nervous system. It's not a thought. It's something that you actually have to have the capacity to do. And there's a bunch of research studies on empathy and empathy neurons, and how those become desensitized, right? You can desensitize your empathy neurons with substances. You can do it through work and different addictions. You can even do it through not having gone through certain experiences, right? Because going through certain experiences opens you up to be able to help you become stronger and develop resilience, or they can help you come close and become calcified and hardened and those blinders onto the world. So a lot of people in the blockchain space, just in this society in general, that's what they're dealing with. So with blockchain for social justice, it's more than just hey, we got to get poor communities into blockchain and crypto. It's really more about you need to start transforming your mind about how our society functions in general, right? Yeah. And it's going to actually help you develop a better use case too.
Yeah.
I'm writing a book about this. I'm on chapter 7.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time is now. I'm done.
Good. Good. Time is now. I'm done.
Yeah, because when they elected Trump, even before this, I've been hollering about this, and everyone was like, "Yeah, it's time to have conversations with your family." I was like, "You're wasting your time. You're beating a dead horse."
Yeah.
Because you see it. You see it with your own eyes. You just choose not to do anything about it. It's a choice. That's something that we have to really, really understand. It's a choice. And even me in my own self-care process in my life journey, I've had to realize some of the certain things I do, it's a choice. Now, am I aware that it's a choice? In the moment, I may not be. I may just be conditioned like that. But once I become aware of it, I have to then make those changes. I have to take accountability for the choices that I've made. And there's no neutral side. I feel like a lot of people try to be neutral. There's no neutral side. I'm a play devil's advocate. There's no such thing as diplomacy when we're talking about systemic oppression. You're either promoting it and a part of it, or not saying anything and still promoting it and a part of it, or you are actively trying to dismantle it.
Yeah.
You have to pick a side. And this situation that we're going through, just globally, is going to catapult people into, you have to pick a side now. So blockchain crypto folks, they're gonna have to pick a side. Do you wanna stay with the foolishness? Or do you wanna join this new team where we're creating projects and ecosystems and communities that we really care about each other, like Starfish Mission.
Yeah.
We care about each other, we take care of each other, you know? I really love those folks down there, like blockchain, we take care of each other. Blockchain for social justice, we take care of each other, you know? We make sure that we get different opportunities, that we stack these different conferences, that we're doing what we need to do to make sure that the community has at the end of the day.
Damn, I rarely ever allow people to be binary on the show, but that's a pretty good, like, yeah, because we're all nuance driven on the show, and that's a really good, that's a pretty good case for binaries. Even the people in the middle that are not doing anything about it are still on the side of enabling the systemic oppression to continue going on.
Yeah. 100%.
And then the people that are arguing on like a devil's advocate perspective in many ways are doing it from a point of like, quit whining about systemic oppression and go and just bring yourself fully into the world. But then our argument to that is like, yo, the machines, all the variables of the machine are there to hold that back. So you have to change the variables in the machine to really enable people to be their fullest in the world. And so that's my whole conversation over the last fucking like eight months on this topic since I've, you know, featured Jordan Peterson and then been talking about some of the intellectual dark web stuff, and then also have had a really good amount of time of really being in the middle of helping out with homeless in San Francisco over the last 5 years that I've lived here, really being just in touch more with being globalist in many ways and being pro helping socioeconomic lower roll of the dice. And so that's what's really given me this nuanced idea of it. And you just made it very clear. It is sort of a binary point that that either we're going to allow the systemic oppression to continue or we're going to enable the lower rolls of the dice to really fly out with their full wings and potential.
Can I add to that piece?
Yeah.
Where people be like, you know, well, why we're all in the same boat now? You know, why are you complaining about this? Let's just either get to work or just shut up and stop talking about it. It's irrelevant. Why are you bringing identity politics into technology? And what that is called bypass. That's called bypass. That's called suppression, and that's called derailment. And remember, I said you can't pour a gallon into. Because they actually don't have a complex worldview. They don't have a complex perspective. So they're very narrow-minded and really like narrow thinking. So when you try to start talking about these different things, they get super uncomfortable and they try to bring it back to something that makes them comfortable, which is not talking about it at all. But the challenge here is we need to really start challenging ourselves to move out of that. And I also know a lot of folks who, you know, they go to Burning Man, they do these ayahuasca journeys, they blow their mind and their aura apart with psychedelics, traveling to Amazon, going to perpetrate and surveillance indigenous communities to see how they live or whatever. There is consequences for all of that behavior. And I feel like a lot of those folks who are in that space and who are doing that, they are also, I would say, they don't have no grounding. They don't have no reality. They're not rooted in reality. And in many ways, they've just fallen into a new trap, right? Into the whole elevate your consciousness trap and that new agery. You have to understand that, yeah, that world exists and this material world still exists. So you need to learn how to walk between both worlds at all points in time.
That's a good way to put it.
And a lot of those people are also in the blockchain crypto space, and they're leaders. And they go and they drop acid and be like, oh, we're all one and we're all equal. Sorry. No, that's not how it's going down. We still live in a matrix, right? We still live in a artificial simulated reality where there are certain mechanisms put in place to harness the energy, right, and life force of other people. So while you are delving and dabbling into all those things, recognize that that exists too, you know? So that's all I really have to say about that. And there's a lot that I could talk about, but I don't want to seem like a negative Nancy because I'm really not.
You're not. You're not. You're a realist. You're a realist. You're so grounded in the realness, the reality.
Reality.
Yeah. Because this example is really important. You know, you were bringing up a lot of the New Age consciousness drive, which is really important. But if it gets so disconnected from the reality of what you're describing is literally the life force out of people being sucked by the machine. It's a really important way to put it. And we talk about that quite a bit. And I'm glad that you have a very strong personality around it. Ron, what do you think?
You're a beautiful person. You really are. You're so strong and smart, and you say things that you speak on my behalf. Go get him.
Yeah, go get him.
I just feel like I'm a voice box for the people. People feel this, they know this, but because of the shame, right, and the consequences and all the other kind of stuff, like
the inability to hold a gallon of water.
Right, that's another thing
because
too.
you can mold a new cup, you can expand the amount of water you can hold, but it requires a lot of work, a lot of really looking at oneself in the mirror and being like, wow, I didn't have generational poverty. Like, really just fucking admit that, like, you just didn't have it over at least the last 4 generations or however long it's been, and then look at someone that did have it, and all these variables of the actual matrix that is. Yeah.
And you know, Tim Draper, I don't agree with his politics at all, and that whole family, it's whatever. But he wrote a book, and I have that book, and the first page that I opened to was, "Make amends for all of your transgressions." Whoa.
Make amends for all of your transgressions.
Right, whether conscious of them or not. Now, and then the explanation was, we've all done things or benefited from things that harm other people, or we've all made mistakes, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being able to look at that, look at how we benefited, look at how we've harmed other people, and making amends for that.
Yeah.
Simple, and apply that same concept to this right here. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, Mr. Draper, like, you may have like fucked up politics, but that was brilliant, right? Yeah. So I encourage everyone to go read that book.
Damn, just as you know, we are completely fan funded by Patreon and ticket sales. Yeah, something like that.
But this is really good. And Alan, I think you got a skill here with this, even just the way that because I've done many interviews with all kinds of people, and the questions you ask, and the way you just like, even your voice is like very radio-like, you know? So just keep going, whatever you do. I like this show.
Thanks, Daisy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you have a really fucking good skill too. I'm really liking yours.
Yeah, you're strong. I want to hear you speak. I hope to get that tech inclusion gig. I think I'm working on, I'm going to try to.
Yeah, but this is the problem, is that you go to events like TED or whatever, the blockchain events, right? Not B4SJ, but you go there and the problem is it's a monologue. It's a one directional, it's coming from my mind, I've crafted this message for you, and that's fine. That's like the TED model is fine in that sense, and it works in a certain way. But if you just put another person that has been doing thousands of interviews, let's say, throughout their life, and that has a pretty good breadth across subjects and a pretty good emotional intelligence as well, and you sit them down next to them and you unpack your mind and your soul and your heart on a show with that person, it can lead to new ways of understanding reality that can then kind of drive people in. You know, there's a fucking bell curve, there's a probability curve, and there's a lot of people that they'll never be able to have a gallon glass. And then there are people that definitely already have a gallon glass. And then there's the people in the middle of the bell curve that have somewhere between the two. And so the point is to find the people on the upper half of the bell curve that have a pretty big glass, that are just about ready to have the whole gallon in there, like hopefully myself. and just to be able to drag me more into the side of having a wider glass. And so that's what we do. And the best, I personally think the best way to drag more people over on that upper half of the bell curve is by doing things like sitting down here and talking about it to a diverse audience, versus when you just go and have a monologue, people, they don't see any contrarian perspective even in the slightest. And then it's like, why would I believe one, like the one thing, the one person, the one, you know, versus an actual conversation.
Right.
See how Alan L. came to life when you stroked his ego? He just went off on his little tangent.
What?
No,
I didn't feel like his ego was stroked.
I
I
don't
just
know.
feel like you just.
I'm just saying. All right, maybe I'm out of line and
Okay.
I stand corrected. But yeah, he just came to life a little bit there. I felt. I've been working. We've been on.
I'm glad that you also feel some of the benefits of an interlocutor that can have nobody has a conversation. How many people in the universe are talking about, oh, what's the difference between a monologue and having an interlocutor, a dialogue on stage? Almost nobody in the world's talking about that right now. And so the point is, but how many people are having monologues on stages right now? 99% of all stage presences are either monologues or panels. You know, not dialogue between two people on a very tough subject. This is a tough subject. It's not an easy subject to talk about the variables of the matrix and how they're affecting people's lives and suppressing people from achieving their full potential.
Folks don't get it. Yeah, this is deep. I think that this is like the deepest understanding that any of us should have, is how it's operating and why it's operating and who it's impacting. I think you have to understand your enemy. You have to. And in my training, my social justice training, and in the study of my my heroes, I guess, the ancestors that I emulate, Ida B. Wells, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, they all studied the minds of the people who were causing them havoc in hell in order to navigate out of those systems. So why won't we do the same and do it properly?
Yeah. Find the variables that are causing the control systems of the matrix and then fight against those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Starts with the consumption.
The consumption of the variables is normal, or what do you?
Yeah, actually, not only the consumption of, I think it's the consumption of the variables as normal, but also the engagement in these variables as normal. It's like, I'm just doing my job, right?
Yeah. That you called it, like, it was like kind of like bypassing.
The bypass, yeah. And then, I mean, like, you are either consuming or being consumed, but in what ways? How? Right? So.
God, and so much of the whole equity thing got fucked by communism and socialism as well. Because there's so much negative connotation with that, then it got fucked by that. But that's
it did. But you know, I do want to say this. There's a really good book, and it's called The Great Cosmic Mother. It's like this fat. It's amazing, amazing writing. And
The Great Cosmic Mother.
Oh yes.
Gaia.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and it also has a chapter about Marx and Engel. You know, Engel was Marx's right hand. And people don't know this, but Karl Marx got his theory of like communism, socialism, whatnot, by actually studying ancient matriarchal economic systems and societies. The thing about this is that what they left out was the existential development being centered around trade, community, development, all of that. They didn't put that in there. That's why we keep on having iterations of socialism and communism that end up in a pile of people being dead, right? And people in a pile of dead bodies, right? Because they took out that existential piece. So that book is very powerful, and it really goes into very much detail in terms of how those ancient systems operated and how they are very similar to those two systems that we did mention, but what piece is missing, right? So there's work to do. Yeah.
I foresee a future where it'll be hilarious to look back at this and be like, wow, we let that oppressive shit happen for that long. And it'll be interesting because we'll have so much technological progress by that point in terms of you having things that doesn't preclude me from having things, AI and nanotech everywhere, blockchain technology everywhere, that it'll be funny when we look back and we go, wow, we were fighting for resources, we'll have so much abundance, but it takes a fuckload of work and mapping to actually get to that place of straight abundance and prosperity for everyone. And I really believe in us getting there, and even having that on Mars and having that on other celestial bodies. Yeah.
I don't know if we're ready for that.
We have to figure this one out first.
That's what I'm saying, because we're gonna just go there and we're gonna find some beings who already know about planet Earth and be like, no, you're not gonna bring that over here.
You're not bringing that here? That's
No.
funny. This is we have rovers there that we haven't figured that out yet. That's funny. That leads us into like the questions that we ask at the end of the show. And
Yeah.
I feel like maybe we should plug some of the, I met you at, when did we first meet? Oh yeah, at the event at the Vault. So we met there like a month before Blockchain for Social Justice. So it was like May or something when
Yes.
we met. And then we have a whole playlist now. It's the Simulation Plus Blockchain for Social Justice playlist on our channel. So you can go watch all the videos with Mackenzie Slaughter and Cheryl Davis and Farrah Weiss. So we have all those videos that are on our channel. You guys can go watch them. And so yeah, we're excited to go and do another future one soon. So that event happened. That was a really powerful event. Now you have events and you have the curriculum. So the events happen, every couple of months you have a Blockchain for Social Justice event.
At least once a month, or
Once
we're
a month.
partnering with it for an
Yes.
event.
Yes. And you're bringing the social justice aspect of what blockchain can do to that event.
To that event, and also bringing that community to that event
Yes,
to be able
yes.
to network and all that other good stuff too.
Yep. And then what is the curriculum? The curriculum is onboarding people to become blockchain developers, onboarding people to become crypto investors. And so what does the curriculum kind of like look? What does it look like? Because here's this is awesome. You got your support. I'm so happy we just got crypto support as well. It's so yeah, I know it's
Should've been
so
the first thing
crucial.
you did.
I know, yeah.
It's
So-
like that he zoomed in on.
Yeah. We'll have this link also in the bio. But hit us with the curriculum that's being developed. Hit us with that.
We're working right now with a couple community partners to develop a blockchain curriculum that's going to be open sourced for all of the programs that help young people become developers. So it will take them from if you have any type of Java skills, it will help you improve those skills and then also help you learn how to be like a blockchain developer. So that's actually what we're working on right now. And then another curriculum that we're working on is, we already have this, we're just revamping it, how to invest. So just the intro to blockchain and crypto, white papers, wallets, token economics, all that. And then another thing that we're already doing is a curriculum, actually how to build your own blockchain. Because being a developer, yeah, that's awesome and it's amazing and it's cool, but it's what you design on top of the blockchain that makes it worthwhile.
Yeah. And out of the curriculum, are they available on b4sj.com?
Not yet.
Okay, so maybe soon we'll have.
Yeah, and it's going to be a completely different process in the way we administer that. You're going to have to, of course, register with us.
Yeah.
To be one of our community partners. We'll come do the initial training to get you ready to train, that whole thing.
Cool. Okay, so right now, basically, the curriculum is being brought to locations on site. Okay.
Yeah.
And happening at the events that you're starting. Okay. Wow. Okay, let's do it. So you were talking about, let's do our ending questions now. So you mentioned just a moment ago that we'll get to Mars and we'll realize there are other people there. This is a question that we ask on the show. Do you think we're alone in the cosmos?
No. And to think that we are, that's hella arrogant and childish. How many galaxies do we have? I was looking at this infographic of the different galaxies and how NASA catalogs them. And I was just holy freaking moly, there's probably 10 of me somewhere. There has to be other planets, because that is the only way to really explain some of the shit that we see on planet Earth. There got to be something else going on that we just are not clued into.
I love thinking about how other civilizations have evolved on their rocks orbiting stars. Because how many of them also are dealing with the same stupid issues that we are? How many of them have transcended those issues?
Right.
Yeah. And what does that look like when they do, etc.? So, okay, Daisy, do you think we're in a simulation?
Let's see. Let me answer this properly, because people that look like me in the past, when we talk like this, we become institutionalized. So yeah.
That's fucked. We got to change that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
again, that's a threat to the system, because if you start telling the truth, they'll be like, they're going to just try to make you crazy, which is what they're going to do to Elon Musk in a minute. Well, I would say, I just know that the dream world has been very real for me too. And I get premonitions in that world as well. So do we live in a simulation? We probably do, because if we think that this is real life, where you are born just to spend the first like 18 years of your life in a cage, having your wings clipped and your mind molded and shaped to become a worker for the next 40 some odd years, just so you can get a little bit of amount of money to go on a couple vacations and then die, you got to be fucking kidding me. This is a joke, and I'm not buying it. Like, this is not reality. It's absolutely not. But this material world is very dense in 3D, right? And
Yes.
the more that we engage in that dense and 3D-ness, the less that we can tap out of the simulation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's really important. That's why a lot of people are going to do the ayahuasca and doing all those type of things,
Yeah.
because they don't actually have a way to do that without the stimulation, right? In the simulation. So meditate, get an altar, talk to your ancestors, get some crystals, go in the water, change your diet, really, become light as a feather. So that's all I really have to say about that.
That's good. That's good shit, Daisy. I love it. Oh, so good, so good.
Ooh.
Yeah, I like how you said the more we transcend the three-dimensional material reality, the more that we tap into what is true, which is like, how is this 3D world true? There's so much control systems here that are limiting. But we're also blessed with some of that plant medicine and all this other kind of stuff on the planet, which is great. The ability to meditate, to eat light and stuff like that. That's really good, Daisy, really good.
Yeah.
Can you quickly mention why you think they're about to point at Elon and say that he's crazy? And can you tell us why that?
Yeah, because he exposed them.
How did he expose them?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to repeat what he said.
Okay.
And I was watching that interview,
Yeah.
and you can tell that he has fought really hard to not, I would say, become hijacked in a way.
Oh, by?
The entities that be.
Uh-huh.
Because they know who they want to continue to do their bidding and do their work, right?
Yeah, like maybe like the fossil fuel industry.
Fossil fuel,
like
the Koch brothers, Jeff Bezos, all of them, they've already been hijacked.
Oh, you think Bezos is hijacked?
Of course. Of
Really?
course. You have to be to really think that what you're doing is okay. Anyways.
Wait. That's a huge one, though.
I'm glad you came here, because thank you, Daisy.
Yeah,
for coming.
most of the politicians and businessmen, they are.
Wait, but how is Bezos hijacked, but Musk isn't hijacked?
Because Musk is the only one that can. Do you not see the tools that Amazon is creating and just putting out there?
What do you mean?
They're creating all types of facial recognition for policing. They're creating all kinds of technology to harm people. They pay their workers like dirt cheap trash wages and thinking that it's okay. And they're like, trying to run and go to space. And Elon Musk and them is doing that too. But at the same time, you have business here on Earth that you need to take care of. And just completely not even remorseful, just complete impunity about it as well. But what I know about Elon and the fact that he's basically he's been really teetering is I've been seeing just before that interview that he did, I've been seeing a lot of articles about how he's sleeping on the floor of the Tesla factory, about how this is going on, that is going on. He's trying to retain his humanness too.
Yeah.
But I think what's going to end up happening is because he basically exposed the fact that he and another tech company, they're trying to get FAGMA, Facebook, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Apple. They're like a conglomerate. They're trying to get them to sign a pact in terms of these are the parameters around how we will use AI. Nothing more, nothing less. And we agree. And he basically exposed that they're trying to do that pact. So now the Department of Justice is on his head for some of the stuff that he released in that video. Given the fact that he was high, yeah, he was high, but I know that man has more sense than people may realize. And I think that he was really talking about the dangers of AI. and how some of these companies are set to use those.
Totally.
So what's going to end up eventually happening is the more that state regulators start looking at, hey, the federal government is not going to do anything, we're going to take this on. They're going to just try to basically make it seem like he's crazy to discredit his statements. But the thing is, the cat's already out of the bag. So if they do try to take him down, he will be like maybe the last one that they're able to take down because society is watching. I think that this has happened so many times before that people are already hip. They already know. We know what goes on. We know 9/11 was an inside job. We know what's going on in this society and how they manufacture.
You're binary on that one?
I'll just say this. The United States government does not have its citizens at best interest. I just know that what happened after those series of events that happened in New York to the Twin Towers, the only people that benefited was the United States and some really rich investors. I'm just looking at who benefited and how they are benefiting. That's it, right? I would also like to add that there's something going on right now as we speak called the Constitutional Convention, and people are not even looking at this. And basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to eliminate the Constitution of the United States so that each state can then create their own constitution or basically become a republic. And has anybody watched Handmaid's Tale? Okay.
Wait, this is
happening now, and they have 28.
They already have state rights. Why do you want to abolish the United States Constitution?
They already have 28 out of the 34 states necessary. So that whole, we want to split California into 3 states.
Yeah.
That would have added 2 more red state senators and governors to be able to say yes. People are not looking at politics. They're not looking at the long game. They're just looking at like the short.
Well, food, shelter, safety,
I mean,
the basics.
You can't blame them.
Can't blame,
right?
yeah. It's really hard to have time to critically think about trillions of variables that go into a game.
Sometimes it's not even trillion. They actually all like, I say the way I categorize these things are all into like overarching themes, and there's only like 6 of them. And then those 6, they just collapse into one, and it's scarcity, sociopathy, and a psychotic behavior. So it's not that hard. People try to make it too complex and you're writing all these damn books. Stop. It's not that hard to understand. But I guess maybe I'll just say I was given a gift of, I'm old soul. I've been here before, so I'm like, this is all craziness. This time that I'm here, I'm like, we got to get it right this time.
That's what I'm feeling too.
Her Royal Highness, I don't even feel I'm worthy to be in the same room where you're a beautiful person.
You're so sweet. I'm not coming back here. Fuck y'all. So you can abuse me again?
Fuck y'all.
Okay.
Oh my God. Okay, that was a great answer to simulation and Musk. I have a lot to unpack and learn still.
Can I ask the last question before we go?
Yes,
yes,
you can.
Ron, you may ask the last.
Daisy, what's the most beautiful thing in the world?
The most beautiful thing in the world is the smile that you get from a little baby across the bus when you make eye contact and start making like little googly eyes and little faces. And for a minute, you don't think about systemic oppression. You don't think about bills. You don't think about anything. You just think about how innocent and pure that child is and how you were able to put a smile on their face with your little antics. And another beautiful thing is I'm in a Facebook group for fat cats. So people just post pictures of their fat ass cats all day, and it's like the cutest thing ever. So anyways. I know. It's like, do not go on their high, because you're just be like, just laughing your ass off. And everyone talks in baby talk on the pictures. And it's like these grown ass people talking baby talk on these cat pictures.
Whatever it takes.
The child, the innocence, and that precious soul that's being analyzing and having all the variables on it. What's like the one piece of advice, if you could come up with one, for the parents that are molding their children into the world?
Please do not hate your children. Please love your children. Speak kindly to them, because it does impact them on levels that we are not even able to understand. And let them be themselves. Introduce them to new things. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, Daisy, what a great freaking show.
Jazz hands.
Huge high five.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Do that one more time so I can get the.
Well, I'm gonna do that.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is awesome.
I'm glad you had a good time. We had a great time, and I'm really excited. You give me lots of hope, and you give me lots of hope, and also you give me a stronger, roadmap for, for what I also care about, and my attention to be focused on as well.
Me too.
Yeah. Much love, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys have thoughts, comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Give us the good, give us the bad, give us your thoughts across it all. We'd love to hear from you. Join the community, join the conversation. Also go and create, go and build our future, go and make blogs, make videos, make images, make infographics, make businesses, make all this music, make all this cool stuff. Art, go and create. Thank you, Ron, our producer, director. Much love to you guys for tuning in. And go check out b4sj.com. Thank you very much, everyone. See you soon. Peace.